Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UAP, UFO news from everywhere and anywhere. Today, I have the pleasure and honor of having Preston Dennett on as a guest. Preston Dennett first began investigating UFOs in 1986 after learning that his family, friends, and co-workers were having very strange encounters. Since then, he has interviewed many hundreds of people and investigated a wide variety of cases. He has written dozens of books and more than 100 articles about UFOs and the paranormal. He is a frequent guest on radio and TV and speaks across the United States. Preston and I will be discussing his book, Symmetry, A True UFO Adventure. This book is not only a true life adventure report, but it also answers many of the questions surrounding the UFO/UAP phenomenon. What are UFO/UAPs? Why are they here? What is the alien agenda for Earth? And do they mean us harm? And although Symmetry is written by veteran UAP researcher Preston Dennett, the book is told largely in the words of the person who is the subject of the book, Dolly Safran, who has also graciously agreed to be my second guest. Dolly will absolutely change the way you think about non-human intelligences. What you are about to witness is disclosure. Thanks a lot for being on UFO Disclosure. This is really a privilege. I appreciate you and Dolly being on UFO Disclosure. She'll be joining us in about 20 minutes or so. I'm a fan of yours. All your books are always so enjoyable and easy to read. And you always find some sort of a niche that's different from other UFO-related books. This one in particular, though, is so different from all your other books. And I found a quote where you say that this is the kind of book I've wanted to write for a long time. I've never heard another account like it. What makes this so different from all your other books? I mean, I think at one point you say in the book also, the ETs have guided her, meaning Dolly Safran, to me. They had chosen me to tell her story. Do you feel that strongly about this account or this report?
Yeah, I sure do. Dolly's case is super interesting for a number of reasons. Honestly, it's the most extensive case that I've ever had the privilege to investigate. She's really been able to answer a lot of the questions I myself had about what is going on here. I've interviewed a lot of people and certainly have been able to build a pretty, I think, accurate picture of what's going on here. And much of what she told me I have heard from other people, but she has a continuous narrative. I think what really makes her experiences different from a lot is that she's overcome the fear that so many people experience when having UFO contact, because fear can distort your perception of an experience.
Right.
A lot of people, struggle with that. And another thing that really makes her case different is that she has not used hypnosis to recover missing time, memories. And I've generally stayed away from hypnosis. In most of my books, I would say maybe 10% involve the use of hypnosis at all. Not that I don't think it works, I think it does, but there are controversies surrounding it. So I figured, I'm just going to bypass that because I can easily say unequivocally that the accounts that I'm putting forward in my books do not rely on hypnosis. And that's especially true with Dolly Safran. She remembers her experiences fully consciously. On a book I've always wanted to write because most of my other books are collections of people's experiences. I really love, interviewing people about direct face-to-face contact, people who've been taken on board. And most of my books on that particular subject are a collection of, anywhere from 10 to 20 of these people's experiences.
Right. I remember reading your book, Onboard UFO Encounters, but this is so much more. It goes beyond that. And this is why I'm such a fan of Dolly's and wanted to talk to you about her because, as you said, she was not hypnotically regressed. There were no ideas implanted into her mind by a hypnotist. Not that that isn't valid either, because I did interview Kathleen Martin, Betty and Barney Hill's niece. Betty and Barney Hill were both hypnotically regressed. And that's one of the contact cases that has never been debunked and very highly respected. And Dolly also is fully conscious and fearless. She has a different perception of what non-human intelligence is, not what the media is putting out there, which is all about fear. It's all fear-based, which makes it that much more interesting. And like you said, it's continuous. It's a continuous narrative. She's never changed her report, never changed her narrative. She's not trying to sell anything. If anything, she's putting her reputation out at stake. She kept this a secret all her life, understandably, since there's such a big stigma over contactees and UFO-related experiences. So she came to you and she trusted you. Why do you think that was? I mean, somebody that kept a secret all their lives came to you. Why do you think she came out to you? And why do you think she came out now with the truth about her double life?
Yeah. I can tell you it's a true honor and a big responsibility, because certainly this is something a lot of people will tell me, that this is something they've kept secret, even from family members. They've learned long ago that there's a lot of skepticism, and even people you love and trust may subject you to ridicule.
Right.
People learn the hard way. So a lot of people have come to me after, reading my books perhaps, or hearing me on a podcast like yours, or visiting my website, or hearing me on the radio or at a convention. And Dolly reached out to me. She had decided to go public after realizing, because she had kept away from the whole UFO field, all the programs. She never read a UFO book. But at some point, it's unavoidable when you start hearing all the fear and things that are surrounding this subject. And she realized this was being badly misrepresented in the media. And she decided it was time to tell her story, because so many people were basically pushing forth the fear narrative, lying even. It just wasn't being accurately represented. She was looking for someone to tell her story and couldn't find anybody who she really trusted.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there. I see Dolly there. Hi, Dolly.
Hi, Dolly. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on UFO Disclosure. I really respect you for coming out and speaking out on your experiences. We were just talking about why, after a life of keeping this secret of your contact experiences, you came out now, and you came out and trusted Preston. And I think he very eloquently put it. You thought the media, which is fear-based as far as the UAP issue, was misrepresenting what extraterrestrials are all about. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Preston understands completely why. He's good at explaining it for me. One of the reasons that I went to Preston is that I couldn't find anybody. I spent a month when I started sampling the networks and everybody, and look, I couldn't find anybody that lived up to what I expected, I guess. It's the best way to put that.
That's too bad.
Yeah. And by the time I was back on board again, I told my contact my issues. And he said, well, we kind of anticipated maybe this was going to happen to you. And I have somebody that I want to send you to. And I said, okay. And he said, you need to write the name down. I'm terrible with names. I can remember numbers all day long. I wrote his name down, and I went home and found him on YouTube. And I found his oldest video. It was a program that he was doing in PowerPoint on healings, one of his books. I think it's his first book. And he checked off every box for me. I was impressed, very impressed. So I sent him an email, and he contacted me within 24 hours, that fast, right back, and it just went from there. And I've never been sorry I did it. I'm thrilled beyond thrilled. And he was the right guy. He likes to tell the truth. He only tells what the people say. He gives the story, he doesn't embellish or make comments or opinions or anything like that. He's just presenting data and massive amounts of it. I mean, he knows a lot about this subject, and I was grateful to have made contact with him.
I agree. And his honesty comes across in all of his books as well. You never get the impression that he's trying to create a narrative. He just tells it like it is, basically.
Yep, exactly.
Work hard at that.
It's not easy to do in this field. But I was also interested in the title itself, Symmetry. And this is a question for both of you. What does the title mean?
Symmetry is an all-in-one word that literally describes everything in this universe. It is all symmetry. It exists in symmetry. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have on without off, light or dark. There's symmetry in that, and it's in the system that we live in, universally, all the way across. And it was important that that was the first concept. And I thought it would be a good name for the book. And when I told Preston, he was like, "Oh, I like that." So, and then True UFO Adventure, that's his take on it, and that's why.
Yeah, I wanted to call it Dolly Among the Stars, but when she mentioned that title, I thought, you know what? That's really interesting because it does reflect what she actually learned from the ETs, that life in the universe is very similar. Dolly talks about going to other planets and seeing, pine trees and animals very much like here on Earth, with slight differences, of course, but all, beyond that to the structure of the universe itself, the macro universe and a micro universe, down to the molecular and atomic level, and even beyond that in the other direction. So yeah, I thought it was a really wonderful title.
Yeah, I think Dolly Amongst the Stars is a really catchy title, but Symmetry makes you think about everything you just said. So it pulls you in more. Dolly, your experiences are unique because you were fully conscious. This was in no way a dream. You weren't hypnotically regressed. You were there for everything, and you remember everything. And this started from when you were a baby, and it continues to this day. It took a huge push for you, you said in the book, for you to gain full awareness of your experiences. And this happened to you, I believe you said in the book, at 14.
Yes, I was 14 years old. I had memory, but it wasn't cohesive. It was too convenient for me to just let it go, and not think about it while I was thinking about other things that I was doing and experiencing. And my mom kind of aided and abetted in that. She was terrified for what the situation was. She knew full well what was happening. And she just couldn't handle it. And so she let me believe that I was dreaming, or she let me believe that I might not be okay, things like that. And one day it became so important to me because I remembered things. And I thought to myself, I'm either unbelievably crazy or this is real. And I was determined from that moment forward, I was going to take nothing less than understanding what was happening to me and dive headfirst into it, no matter what it was. I was going to accept reality for what reality was. And that's basically how I did it. It took some effort on my part, and it was crazy emotional and physical for me to do that. But I did, and I've never regretted a minute of it. I would rather be awake and aware and knowing things than deluded or worried or not sure of anything, It's important.
This is a pattern I've seen with many contactees. They may wake up all the way in midlife or earlier in their 20s. It's pretty unusual for a contactee to wake up to their contact as a teenager. And Dolly did it at age 14 following a major missing time encounter. And said, you know what, I'm going to remember this. And she did.
Just for my listeners and even for myself, is there a trigger that some experience or something that just triggers the memories and it all of a sudden makes sense? Or is it different for each person?
I think it's an individual thing. I think everybody has that moment in their life where the wall of reality hits you, okay? And it could be an experience that you're having that reminds you profoundly of it or takes you into it unwillingly, even some people. But there comes a moment where you just want to put your foot down and think to yourself, this is crazy. I need to know, no more fear, no more anything. And I think it's that acceptance that this reality isn't that bad. And how can I go on without it? It's who I am. It literally is who I am. And I think that the trigger is what stops you in your tracks and makes you think.
Well, it can be a major encounter. That's what happened with Whitley Strieber.
Yeah.
Another person I talked to saw a book with the word UFO on it. He suddenly remembered. Another gentleman cracked his molar, instantly was taken back to a childhood experience where he remembered the ETs working on his mouth. That brought it back. For some people, it might be the picture of an ET. The book Communion woke up a lot of people. So there's different triggers for sure. But ultimately, I think people suddenly, one guy I talked to, he was having this series of dreams where his child kept coming into his room and it scared the living daylights out of him. His infant child. He's like, why am I so scared of this? And then the dream came where it wasn't his child. It was a little gray. And that's when he woke up. So there's different ways that people wake up. Yeah, it depends. I think when you're ready to wake up to it and face it, that's when it happens.
And I think from reading the book, I got that most people, or at least J. Allen Hynek has said that 1 out of every 40 persons has had contact. That's incredible. That means that the majority of us have had some sort of contact, but just cannot remember or choose not to remember. Because I remember, Dolly, you mentioned in the book that the ETs allow you to remember if you choose to.
Right. They don't take that away from you. In other words, the power of suggestion is really immense in humans when they're terrified or they're trying to work things out. And if they're in a situation where they're isolated and they feel like, I can't deal with this, ET, because they're psychic and they can communicate with your mind who you really are on the, your consciousness. If you're saying inside, I really can't take this, I cannot deal with this, they just suggest to you that if that's what you want, then you go for it. Okay, that's what you should choose. They don't tell you to do it. They don't blind you with something, or they don't force you to have no memory. They allow you to choose for your own self whether that memory is going to stick with you or not. And it's up to you in that moment. A lot of people just can't handle it. They have things going on in their lives, like, their religion, their family dynamic, the reality that they've been living. It's really hard for them. And some people just say, I'm just going to forget about this for now. And they do. They really do.
Many examples of this in the book Symmetry, where Dolly is working with people who are taken on board. And a lot of them, most, I think, experience such fear.
Right.
But it's really not to their own benefit to remember immediately, perhaps. Because that's the last thing ETs are trying to do, is cause fear or trauma. The first thing they'll tell a person is, have no fear. You're fine. You're okay. We're not here to hurt you. They say it every single time, almost without exception. And yet people were trained to fear. Our society is saturated in fear. So it's a very difficult thing for people to overcome. And once you do, I see this over and over again. It's a pattern. Once you overcome the fear, this is when you start to have much more conscious encounters, much more interactive. This is when contactees realize, oh my gosh, they're not here to hurt me. This is actually a benevolent experience. And the vast majority of people I talk to go through this. It takes a while, but almost nobody I interview says, oh, this is evil, they're trying to hurt me. A few, still don't like it. Every now and then I will interview someone who's just wished it never happened, but that's rare. It's actually quite rare.
Yeah, I've heard that the majority of contact experiences are benevolent as well. And Dolly, what I love about your report is that you make it clear that they're pretty much like us. They eat, they poop, they're just like us. They read, they have emotions, they have a sense of humor. They just have a higher technology than we do. You really bring it down to earth and you take the fear out of it. That's what I love about your book, Preston, and your report, Dolly. There were a few things that I wanted to get out of the way because they're predominant in the UFO culture. And I know that you addressed this in your book, Preston. And Dolly, you also cleared some things up. And I just wanted to go through these quickly for my listeners. the Roswell incident.
Yeah.
You mentioned that that was not on purpose.
No.
And most people have the idea that it was an exchange of technology for people or access to people for research. And you talk about the gravitational field of the Earth being a problem with the crafts and how every so often there is a crash.
Right.
And they aren't just gifts or on purpose.
Never. Well, first of all, our magnetosphere has been losing cohesion for about 80 years now, and it's at critical mass right now. We're 40% down. And anything that the sun is doing, if it's sending coronal hole stream, coronal mass ejection, anything that impacts us on the Earth, everything. We're in magnetic circuit with the sun, and it causes all kind of problems. One of the problems that ET experiences from it, and so does NASA and all the other space agencies, is that if you've got a CME incoming and a craft in the way of it, it will down the craft. It will it will extinguish its ability to think, because it's just killed all the electrical systems on the craft. Some of them blow up, some of them just crash. This has happened to NASA multiple times. It has happened to Virgin, whatever they are, Galactic, and SpaceX.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's a dangerous situation. A lot of our launches are put down and stopped. One recently, when they sent humans up in the last one, because we had a CME outbreak. It was pretty bad, and they had to wait for that to subside before they could go up. It affects electrical systems. ET runs electrical systems like we do. They're a little bit different, but they're still electrical. And then you've got the magnetic guidelines, field lines that are cattywampus right now. They're not where they should be. They move suddenly. They're all, going nuts. And if they lose cohesion with that, they'll go down, they'll crash. So no, this was not an exchange. This was an absolute accident. There were two vehicles. There was a major vehicle and a small drone vehicle that went down, and they're just starting to realize that or allow that information to be. It is catastrophic that ET has experienced this. They keep coming here to help us through what we're going through right now, and now they're not here at all. 2 years ago, they bugged out. They had to. They cannot be here. It's too dangerous. So that's what happens. There's obsolescence in the third dimension. Everything breaks down. Every molecule, every piece of matter, no matter what it is, metal included, will deteriorate over time. And if you keep flying vehicles here, they are under the same physics rules as ours. They become vulnerable to extremes in environment and stresses, and that's why they crash.
Okay. And just for my listeners, when Dolly says CME, I believe that's a coronal mass ejection.
Correct.
Right. So those are like solar flares messing with the gravitational field, and that's been proven scientifically, by the way. Okay. I'd like to transition into treaties. Famous conspiracy theory is that Eisenhower signed a treaty, and I think you address this in the book and say that never happened. And this is a predominant conspiracy theory, that Eisenhower signed a treaty back in the 1950s for the very same reason, for exchange of people and technology. And you say that that's just what it is, a conspiracy theory and nothing more.
Yes, Eisenhower did meet with Tall Grays. They came and they picked him up. He was alone. Nobody else was with him. And he went for a ride. Well, he had a bodyguard that managed to go on with him. Okay, maybe two. The entire trip was basically them showing him what we're doing to ourselves. And the number one thing on their mind was nuclear. We needed to stop doing it. We did not have control of it. We did not understand how dangerous it is and in what situations it's dangerous. And they asked us point blank through Eisenhower, and there were two other world leaders that were involved at different times on the other side of the planet, told, if you keep doing this, you're going to destroy yourselves. You need to stop. You do not know what you're up to right now. You don't have the morality quotient. You don't have the ethical quotient. None of it. You don't know what you're doing to yourselves and everybody else. His return to them was, this is a deterrent so that we don't go to war with each other anymore. And E.T. couldn't even explain that to him. He wouldn't listen. He didn't understand that it's never a deterrent. If you threaten power, power will threaten you. And you can kill yourself doing that. And he did not listen. He was returned back to the earth, and he was told to speak to world leaders about it, to have as many conversations as he could so that everybody would agree. Okay, Gorbachev had a cow over all of this. And if you want to know what Cold Wars were all about and threats and that sort of thing, that's why.
I would just like to underline a little bit of what Dolly's saying, because this meeting in 1954 happened. The idea of ETs, signing a paper treaty is ridiculous. They don't have a government, a federalized system, a galactic federation, or anything like that. They would never hand over technology to a government that they know is greedy, corrupt, and violent. And frankly, it was right after this meeting that they started bringing people on board in large numbers and giving this message over and over again. It's all types of ETs saying over and over again about the dangers of nuclear proliferation, the use of nuclear material in any capacity. And you can see this. Don't believe me, look at the first-hand cases. There is case after case after case of UFOs hovering over, like Malmstrom, any missile sites, or nuclear power stations, or nuclear powered vehicles, or nuclear waste dumps. All of it. This is a number one concern because it not only threatens us and our planet, but it's threatening other areas, other dimensions we're not even aware of. This is a message they give over and over again. It's a huge concern. No treaties. I've got no good reporting on that. I think it's misinformation, and that's rampant in this field. Misinformation and disinformation.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. I had to get that out of the way. Dolly, you've been all over the universe, and you've seen so many different planets. And while I was reading that, I was wondering, why do you think the ETs wanted you to see so many different species of humanoids and different planets and solar systems? Was that a sort of an education on their part?
Yes, I was being educated by them, completely educated. They wanted me to know what they know. They wanted me to understand as they understand, experience the technology that they employ, so that I could make rational decisions about how I spoke to everybody here and how I brought forth these messages. They're serious. They've been wholeheartedly waiting for humanity to wake up. That's how this real disclosure will happen from them. And that's why this message is imperative for me to bring out to y'all.
Okay, so we know that the ETs are here to help us. They're here to keep us healthy,
Yes.
safe. They're a lot more like us than we realize.
Right. Exactly.
And that's part of their agenda, why they're here. They want to strengthen us. They want to wake us up. But they're also here for other reasons. In the book, you mentioned something about they are genetically damaged, and some contactees have agreed to help them. I want to talk about human women are impregnated. Their embryos are taken from them. Can you clear all that up?
Yeah, I'll try. Okay, first let me explain to you that they're not the only ones who are experiencing the effects of gamma radiation doing the jobs that they do with us. We are as well. They're not the only ones. We are well. And they've been holding both of us up at the same time. We are related to one another. They are our progenitors. We are genetically alike. We can breed back and forth. If you think about this, seriously think about this, you can't breed with something that isn't your race. We most certainly are their race. They are part of the human genome. They have the same type of DNA we do. Heck, we have the same DNA all the way through the universe. Plants have the same DNA as us. We just dial up differently. We have ethnicities, but we are humanoid. And ET has been working with us and them to bolster all of us back up, to protect us from the effects of the gamma radiation. And that takes careful measures. And I want to call it breeding, and this is husbandry. And they use husbandry with us. If you say no to them and you don't want to be part of this, it's no to them. They will not accost you and make you do what you don't want to do. It's hard for humans to assimilate, especially when they're afraid and don't want to remember the truth or feel somehow weirded out about it, that they've given permission for this to happen. They're technology is so advanced that they can bring a pregnancy up until about the 4.5 month and bring the entire pregnancy out of your womb, in placenta included, to protect the baby. And then the baby is incubated until it is born, if it's a hybrid. And they also direct humans on this earth to find each other. And they do husbandry here. They encourage us to mate a certain way here so that we are strengthening our own genomes as well. The drinks that you're given on board is to protect your DNA while you're on board and off board. They've been watching over us for a long time, trying to keep us going. Our governments of the world have made this incredibly difficult to do. Incredibly, because they've made you so bloody afraid of them that you wouldn't go with them if your life depended on it. That's sad. Or you couldn't hear them if your life depended on it because you're unable to use your innate abilities. We are psychic beings. This is one of our senses. We do have sixth sense, and we're not using them, and that's what they wanted us to do. Wake up so that we could hear them, and the teaching could begin with us to bring us at least level with understanding with them so that we'd stop fearing all of this. Now we've got a false flag. It's been in play for years now. They've back engineered ET's craft to a certain point. They can't fully approximate them, but they have other technologies now that will make you think you're seeing the real thing. And they're going to scare you to death, and they're going to keep telling you that ET is trying to kill you.
Let me ask you this, Dolly. You developed a very interesting relationship with Telera.
Yeah.
And I remember doing research on Adam Adair and how he spoke about a craft that he was exposed to years ago at S4 in Area 51 that he discovered was alive, had an entity attached to it. And that really spoke to me when you talked about Telera. I remembered that and how crafts can be alive. I have a helicopter's pilot license, so I really related to the parts of the book where Preston spoke about your flying Telera. And the amount of detail that Preston put in there about your flying and what went into it, like the pre-flight checks, that's all rings true to me. And the details that you added brought it all to light to me. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you were taught to fly and relate to Telera.
Okay.
That's such a beautiful account, and the way that Preston put it was so entertaining. And if that's true, I mean, I can't wait to get into one of those crafts and fly one of them. I mean, wouldn't you, Preston? I mean, I'm so jealous.
You talk to many people who've had this experience. So when Dolly started to mention it, I'm like, wow, here we go again. Other people have told me the craft were sentient. Dolly really explained it in a lot of detail. And anyone who's driven a car or even a more complicated instrument like a helicopter knows how it becomes almost a part of your body, an extension of it.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
And every person who's flown craft, Grant Cameron has written a whole book about cases like this, talks about how it's flown psychically. And Dolly, yeah, we dove deep into that because it's so interesting.
So can you talk a little bit about how you were taught? Because for me, it rang very truthful, the fact that they waited for years to let you fly solo.
I was trained for 4 years. Once they vetted me, made sure that I was physically, mentally, and psychically capable of learning this, I began. And they only took about a few months to do that, and then I started learning. It is like anything. You have to learn not just how to pilot, but you have to learn why the craft works, how the craft works, what you're doing with it, the engine of it, the electronics of it, the power, all of the systems. You have to learn it. You also have to learn that, here in Earth, we learn to vector, when we fly. There's ascension and declination, and you have to plot a chart path, and you submit it, for when you're going to take off. And there's a whole ritual of things that you have to make sure that what you do is known, very specific. You don't just jump in an ET craft and go anywhere you want or do anything you want. It doesn't happen that way. Vectoring in space or in the universe is complicated. And one of my things that I had to learn, and it took me about a year to get this down right, because you can't just know where to go by directions. You just cannot. You have to be taken there and shown where it is. You have to be given the coordinates for it. And there are coordinates, trust me. there are a million things going on in how to achieve going to certain places, because you're not just traveling through time and space, you're jumping through a light gate, you're going dimensional at this point. So I had to learn how to do that. That's complicated. The reason that craft is indwelt by a higher, more superior intellect is because all of that could not be done by just me. I couldn't just fly this craft by myself. It takes me and the craft itself, Talata. He runs the systems. His intelligence is so unbelievably high. His abilities are so high that he keeps me solid while I'm vectoring and doing my thing. I don't see with my own eyes aboard this craft. I see through his. I do not hear with my own ears. I hear with his. I do not heads up display with the display in front of me showing coordinates. I have it in my head. He's giving me this information and allowing me to steer cohesively with him through these technical issues that we have to learn how to do. It literally took me 4 years how to fly this craft. They tested me. It's like you have to have so many hours as a training pilot before you can actually take the test and solo. Pretty much the same with them. I had to have thousands of hours of flight time on board with another pilot with me, with Talata, guiding me and teaching me. There's a million different things I had to learn, especially when it comes to going to planets and going inside their magnetospheres. There are thousands of things going on. It's extremely involved, and I become part of the ship with him. So I'm feeling everything that's going on as well. My reflexes are in play, my intelligence is at play, my desire to be the pilot is at play. I already know the mission, what we're going to be doing. I already know all the ins and outs of it. I've practiced. I know everything that I'm going to be doing, and then I do it. And that's most pilots who fly are that way. And every hour I spent in the seat made it easier for me and easier for me and easier for me. So by the time I was 19 years old, I took my first solo flight. I was allowed to go out on my own. That was like an incredible day. I was anxious, but I did it. I was happy that I managed it. And then I realized that now I am on my own. And I had to work at that too. There's a certain amount of time a pilot takes when they're flying to become competent in their ability as a solo flyer. And so I had to get through that. And it took me till I was almost 21 before I was completely okay and competent in what I was doing. I had days, trust me,
I remember that the way Preston wrote that, I felt as though I was sitting there with you. I really felt like I was experiencing that with you. And you went on a few missions, didn't you? Can you or Preston explain what gathering the children is? Because I want to make sure that the audience understands the difference between abduction and a contact experience. What is gathering the kids or gathering the children? Either one of you.
Well, I'll give you my what it means to me, and then he can explain the outs of it, because I gave him a lot of information. Every mission has a name. We do that too. We name everything we do, like Desert Storm. That's just an example. Gathering the children is a mission name for ET. And it literally means that we're making contact with every soul that we can on this planet to bring them health if they need it, help if they need it, honest to goodness teaching if they need it and will accept it, and an idea that there's nothing to be afraid of with us, period, the end. And that's literally, to me, that's what that means. That's my mission with that.
So you say us, I noticed that. So you were there thousands of times. I know that because Preston wrote it in the book. And you have some interesting stories there. Somebody came on to you on board. Somebody pinched you.
That was
the story about the guy that ran after the craft in a cow. All those stories, those things actually happened to you, didn't they?
Yes. I wanted to bring reality or life to it. It's not all sterile and scientific with them at all. And I want people to understand that they're part of us, they're with us as much as they can possibly be. And all they're trying to do is repair damage that our society has put on us and get us closer to being able to walk up a rung or ascending, mentally and spiritually. And it's a real big mission for them, and it's a joy to do. And every experience isn't just you get on board, we put you on a table and we do this and that and we send you on your way. That is not what it is. We'll take you for a tour of the craft. We'll show you anything you want. I'll put you in the seat and let you try. I want to know who's capable and who's not. I want you to laugh. I want you to see the joy in what we're trying to bring to everybody. And it's not all hostile. Talata will even make the ship configure to make you more at home while you're on board, if that's what it takes. Okay, he can array or do anything to make you feel at home. And that's what it is that they want you to be at home with them.
It's really interesting to hear Dolly's perspective on all this, because having interviewed a lot of people, most of the people I talk to don't use that word, abduction. It's not accurate. I stopped using it. I call them onboard UFO experiences. And don't look to our governments for answers on this, because you won't get the truth from them. Go to the contactees and they'll tell you. And if you take a close look at what happens when someone's on board, yes, they're physically examined, they're often healed. Healing is a big part of the onboard experience. And if you're not in fear, they will give you a tour of the craft. I hear it over and over again. They'll take you down to what we would call the engine room, explain in detail how it works. They will take you throughout the craft, turn the side transparent, and show you the star field, or Earth down below, or the moon, or Saturn. This comes up quite a bit. They'll take you up to what we call the control room, or the helm. Dolly explained it as, they call it the place of movement. I love that. But yeah, they will actually put you in the pilot seat. Talk to a number of people who've had this experience.
Really? I thought you were exaggerating, Dolly.
No, not at all.
No, I'm ready.
And their mission is one of guiding, teaching, healing, waking people up. If you're going to have a conversation with them, it's going to be about you and your life and how they can facilitate your search for knowledge or fulfill your mission on Earth, or about the dangers of nuclear proliferation, war, pollution, destruction of the environment, greed, corruption. They warn about these things over and over again. And another one of their real big missions, and you can see this if you just take an objective look at the onboard experience, is to wake people up to their own psychic ability. They will facilitate that, because we do have abilities of telepathy. This is how they communicate with people. But it's so much beyond that. It's clairvoyance and precognition and remote viewing and astral projection and healing ability. All of these things, they are trying very hard to wake us up to this, because this is a way of advancing and evolving spiritually, psychically, ethically, morally. And that's where we're having a real problem here on this planet.
Wow. So if you just take the fear factor out of it, you're open to all these gifts. It's totally the opposite of what is being put out there by the media. Occasionally, Dolly, you say that you pick up celebrities.
Yeah. Well, they're just like the rest of us. Everybody's the same to them. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. Well, they do tend to go toward people who are servants, people who want to help each other, people who want to help society, people who want to escalate the messages that they've brought. And people are doing that, and they'll pay a lot of attention to you for that. But there are some people who are famous who are doing that as well, and they will pay attention to them as well.
A really interesting stories in the book was when Dolly, as a little girl, saw this musician, a black man, on board playing his guitar, and didn't realize who it was until some years later, Jimi Hendrix, who she did not know, has come forward as being a contactee. To a certain extent, he did. He was very shy about it, but his bandmate, I think it was Brian Knight, or his last name is Knight, I know that, talked about how they had a major encounter in upstate New York, where ETs came out and the whole deal. But yeah, Jimi Hendrix was no doubt a contactee. He talked about it, and Dolly saw him on board. That's one of the people that she did allow the name to be used, because obviously we have to respect people's privacy. I've had other cases involving really famous people. Well, I can't say their names, of course.
Makes me wonder whether politicians have been up there too.
I'm sure some have.
They said Trump has.
Probably. I don't know directly have knowledge of that, but it's a high possibility, he may have.
I wanted to also talk about Dyson spheres, because recently scientists have been looking for life in other solar systems by detecting Dyson spheres. It's interesting that they're coming out with that now and scientifically proving that you can directly find life in other solar systems through detection of these Dyson spheres. Can either of you explain what a Dyson sphere is? And maybe, Dolly, you can explain what it's like to go to one of these humongous spheres?
I'll give you the definition. A Dyson sphere here, the theoretical definition is a Dyson sphere, is a vehicle that's built around an existing star. And they totally encapsulate it so that it can give energy to the sphere, gravity to the sphere, and a place for people to live. Well, that's a nice little theory, but it's not exactly what would happen theoretically, because if you did, everybody would die. They couldn't take the energy coming from the star. It would go through everything and kill everyone. You can't build a magnetosphere around that. It has to be away from the star to do that. They do pick systems where there's a big enough star and not as many exoplanets around it, and they choose those spots for a reason, because they find the sweet spot and they start building a sphere that they can inhabit and build a magnetosphere around. And that means building into it a core that's generating a magnetic wave. Well, their craft generate graviton energy, and they use that technology, also light technology, to core a Dyson sphere. And it has many levels, it has many features to it. Most of them have water, huge amounts of water, sometimes like almost an ocean, a couple of them, and maybe even major lakes all over it. Flora and fauna can grow on them. They have people living there. They can generate oxygen. I mean, it's a world where they can exist outside of another world with a artificial magnetosphere, and they call it a hub, because it's generally, they go there when they're transporting across the universe, or they're going to other places, and they need a place for things to be okay for a while until they transport it out to wherever they're putting it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed Preston's description of your trip to the Dyson spheres, and I was really surprised that you could actually go inside of one and that there was vegetation, people living there, that sort of thing. You also mentioned in the book that there are some ETs here on Earth living amongst us. Is that true, that they interact with us, they might be living with us, or are you referring to what some people say are cryptoterrestrials, that theory that they might be living underneath the Earth?
There are ETs who are human enough to survive the atmosphere, the pressure, the gravity, and remain here and work here, working behind the scenes. There aren't as many of them as you think, and right now they have been removed. They're gone. They left. When they bugged out, they took them off planet, because nobody wants to stay for what we're going through right now. Some have remained, and they're working toward disclosure. They're working toward educating. They're working toward helping and healing, that kind of thing. Many.
I know that you and Preston say that the majority of ETs are humanoid, but you also educate the reader on a lot of different species. And the mantid, for instance, that usually has a bad rep, isn't necessarily all bad. I know that people like Ted Rice, if you're aware of him, he's really given them a bad name. I didn't necessarily ever buy into that, but you certainly give a different twist to the whole thing. And what I found particularly interesting is that you say that you met Anunnaki.
Yeah, I did.
That must have been awesome.
It was. We're all, actually, everybody on this planet's related to the Anunnaki. We're part of their genome. That's probably number one in our genome that we're related to. And they're not exactly around us right now. They're holding back because there are other ETs that are working harder to do what they do. And quite frankly, a giant here right now with wings would scare the dog out of everybody. We've been taught to fear this, think that they're man-eaters, that they're going to eat your flesh. They do not.
They let you touch them?
Yeah. I was young. I was probably about 5, 6. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, or maybe Mama was just waiting for a moment that I could have this happen. And I came upon 2 who were speaking with the Greys, tall Greys. And a lot of the tall Greys are almost as tall as the Anunnaki. And I was dumbfounded because he had wings. And I was staring at him and I was thinking, whoa, And he looked back at me and he shrugged his shoulder, his wing, and went, go ahead. I can hear it in his head. Go ahead. And I walked right up to him and put my hand out and whoop down his wing. I was like, what is this? I'm patting it and I'm trying to feel the feathers, and they're cool as heck. They're long feathers, they're broad feathers, and they're kind of fluffy, almost like their hair, but matted hair, okay? And they're configured in a way that make the bottom part of his wings opened up wider than the top part of his wings, okay? And he could move them, undulate them all over. And then I looked on his back and I felt up his spine because I was looking for how are they attached?
Right.
Even at that age, I would think, where are they?
Yeah.
And he flexed his muscles for me, and I saw it. Massive, massive muscles under those wings, and they're attached. They're part of his anatomy. And I asked Mama afterwards, how do they fly here? Because we're very gravity heavy, okay? And something that massively big needs less gravity to get off the ground, I would think. And I was correct in my assumption. She said, yeah, they come from a world where there's way less gravity than we have. They're still powerful and they can still fly, but here it's difficult for them, very difficult to take off.
Wow. The description you guys have in that book is so great and detailed, because I never really got that. I've seen reliefs of them and glyphs, but never really got that they had wings. Now, when I look at those pictures again, I see that the wings are just folded in.
Right.
That was a really amazing part of the book. I appreciate that part of it. Thank you, Preston and Dolly. Now, this is going to connect a lot of dots for a lot of people, this book. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on this show. There's so many different varying ideas and controversy and ufology. Sometimes we just can't agree. So it's refreshing when somebody comes out, tries to clear things up. And I'm hoping that we have nothing to fear and that we can open our hearts and try and learn from NHIs, as they're calling them now.
Okay, non-human entities, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they have all these acronyms now just to,
Yeah,
I guess,
they don't
confuse
want
the
us-
dialogue.
Right. Yeah, don't want you to understand that they're human. So, yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it was funny when I was interviewing Dolly, she would just refer to them as people. When I interview contactees who have, reached that stage, this is how they speak. And it's a good reminder that, they are very much like us. This is the message they give to so many contactees. You are us, we are you. We are all one. We share a common heritage. It's something we need to be reminded of, because we have a tendency to separate and call them something other. They're not.
They sound just like us. I mean, your interactions with them, Dolly, well, probably better than us because they're so benevolent and so kind to you. Even when you were a child, they never scolded you. They just stared at you. And
Well, oh no, I wouldn't say that. I had days. I'm a kid. Oh boy, yeah, I could mess up. But I never got yelled at. Basically, everybody just shut down, stopped talking, and looked at me. And I realized instantly, uh-oh, I've done something. And they gave me the opportunity to figure out what it was. I had to think hard for myself at that point, and then explain to them what I did wrong, how I could make it better, and who am I going to make amends to. That's how they teach. They're young. And I was brought into that fold. I was treated just like they treat their young, and coddled like they treat their young. And I was adopted. I'm part of them anyway. I've got their genetics. And so that's how it is. Parents don't spank their children there. They give them an opportunity to identify, what did you just do?
yeah,
Excuse me? And they do it from love. They don't do it from anger, and they don't do it from punitive. Spare the rod, spoil the child is not their motto at all.
yeah, your time on the learning plan, it sounded so enriching. And actually, it sounded like fun. They made learning fun for you, I think.
They taught me how to love learning. They taught me how to learn for myself. They taught me how to resource. They gave me a huge base of information to go with. And then I instantly started hanging out and doing things that I wanted to do and wanted to learn after that. And I always have since then. And it just doesn't matter what it is. We're all here to learn. That's our purpose on this planet, in this third dimension. People say, oh, why am I here? Why are we here? We're here to learn. We're here to learn to employ wisdom here. Wisdom comes from experience and knowledge and learning. And that's why we're here.
I think this is why they contact so many people when they're very young and open to learning, because contact generally does start at a very young age.
Let me ask you this, Dolly, and even Preston. Are you guys still having contact experiences today?
I am in contact psychically with two or three. I can hear Talata when I need to. I can communicate with him when I want to, and I can communicate with Mama. And then I have a friend her name is, in the book they say Mika, but it's not, it's Micha, or Mia. It's actually Micha. And I do contact her from time to time, or she contacts me. Talata was coming until 2022, and then after that, he cannot be here. So I only get telepathy with him or remote viewing with him, sometimes OBE with him. But physically, they are not here at all.
Okay. I know that in the book, Preston, Dolly says that they watch each and every person closely. Can they do that remotely if they're not here? Are they still with us?
Yeah, I've had many contactees tell me this. I was very interested in Dolly's, viewpoints on this, her experiences with this, because it became clear to me that they are very much on top of things. Anything that's happening on our planet or to anyone, they can find you when they need to. Implants are not for tracking, as is often speculated about. I realized early on that they're more about healing and monitoring than your health, than anything else. Yes, they are absolutely watching over everyone and giving everyone the opportunity to interact with them in some way. So many contactees have told me this. So when Dolly said it, I'm like, here we go again. She's filling in the blanks for me, confirming, connecting the dots.
I'm glad you brought that up and thing. I don't think an implant has ever hurt anybody either. In the afterword, you're quoted as saying, she is aware of how extraordinary her report is, but she came out to help. Millions of people who are searching for answers and want to wake up and remember who they are. And hopefully we've done some of that today. Do you guys have any final words for my listeners?
I would just tell people to don't look to our governments for answers. Leave fear behind. ETs are not here to hurt. Again, their mission is one of guiding and teaching and healing and informing and waking people up. That's really why they're here. They've always been here. I don't have cases where, they engage in what I would call sadistic behavior or trying to hurt people intentionally. No, that's not it at all. And if everyone would just step back, try to get a baseline of knowledge about what they actually know, be very discerning in the information that's coming to you, look to the contactees for information on this subject, and allow love and truth to guide your actions. We're here to have fun. We're immortal beings. There's no need to fear.
Good point. Ali, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to stress that one of the things that ET promotes, it is their number one hope for humanity, is that you learn to use your innate abilities. And they know that this is a difficult situation because we are all bombarded with fluoride, which causes calcification of your pineal gland. There are pollutants in the food that we eat, in the water that we drink, and the air that we breathe. We all have to work at isolating ourselves from those things and cleansing our bodies of them, healing ourselves, detoxify, number one. The second one is that we need to start spiritually meditating, that we need to completely cut off all the negativity that's around us. You just need to go within before you go without. Meditate. Learn what it means to become psychic. Teach yourself. Employ your family to work on this as well. Your children, your parents all have psychic parties where you all play games, psychic games, and see how wonderfully easy this is for you all to achieve and work at it. It's hard work because we're doing it not from birth, but from adulthood, most of us. You let your children be psychic. When you do, when you start amping up your awareness, two things happen. One is that people won't be able to lie to you anymore. And the second one is that you will start to be able to heal all the negative things that have happened to you as well. And that we need to spend time doing that. We need to make ourselves well as we're waking up so that we don't have things hanging on to us while we experience what it's like to go out into the universe psychically and see what's really there. And that's the greatest message I can bring to humanity right now. Seriously.
Amen to that. Where can people contact you guys if they want to look you up, look up your research, or even watch any of your podcasts or shows?
I'm pretty easy to find on social media. If you just punch my name in, it'll take you to my website or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My actual website is prestondennett.weebly.com. I also have a YouTube channel. I know a lot of people out there don't have the time to read books or the funds. So I'm putting out a lot of my research there as well. And you mentioned, Albert, that we do have a podcast ourselves. I'm the co-host with Dolly Safran, and it's called The Light Gate, and it airs each Monday evening. Currently, it's at 9 to 11 Eastern, but we're moving down an hour to 8 to 10 Eastern.
Dolly?
I'm on YouTube. I'm on the Lightgate. I'm on Facebook in Messenger. If you want to talk to me, you can. You don't have to be my friend right away. You can go in Messenger and leave me a message, and I'll see it and I'll contact. I do have an Instagram where I put pictures of Talata up in movies, and I have a YouTube channel as well. And it's just some things in there that I want you to see, and a few anecdotal things that I've about meditating and things like that. So, but that's where I'm at.
Awesome. I'm going to close out the podcast with a quote from Carl Sagan. I know that he's not always ET friendly, but I think this is apropos to our conversation that we've had. And I quote, "The nature of life on Earth and the search for life elsewhere are two sides of the same question, the search for who we are."
I agree 100%. Absolutely.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank
Begins
you,
with
guys.
us. Right.
Thank